Welcome back to Screaming Creativity. My guest today is Mae Karwowski, is the founder and CEO of Obviously, a leading global influencer marketing agency. That exciting news, WPP just acquired. So welcome to the family, Mae. Under Mae's leadership, Obviously has become the gold standard for influencer marketing on a global scale, working with iconic brands such as Google, Amazon, and Ulta Beauty. So Mae, welcome to the show. My first time meeting you. You're fairly new to the WPP family. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah,
I'm so excited to be here and so excited to be part of WPP. It's awesome. You know, when I was thinking about should we have an acquisition, should we be acquired, one thing that was really exciting to me was that I think influencer marketing should be not siloed. It should be really part of the creative process. So just like even being here so soon after the news, talking to you is really fantastic.
There are a lot of people listening that maybe don't even understand what influencer marketing is. It's one of those things, it sounds great, it is great, but how can we explain it to the people that might be sitting out there saying, what the hell is it?
Yeah, so influencer marketing has just exploded over the last few years. And I think mainly that's, in a large part to every single person walks around with a phone in their pocket and they can film at any time. And people are spending hours a day on social media networks. So influencer marketing itself is, hey, I'm a normal person. I have amassed an audience myself because on a social platform because I have a cool narrative or I have a cool look or I have a cool story to tell. And then we introduce brands with that person. They tell their own story and they tell that story to their audience in a way that makes sense for them. And then we measure the results and we do it again.
So how does someone go from, I don't know, where'd you go to school? You could tell us where you went to school, to owning a company and then selling a company.
Yeah, so I went to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill.
Wow, you're wearing the blue, I can see.
Yeah, well, actually,
is that really Carolina blue?
Carolina blue is the official Obviously blue, and they are one and the same.
Wow.
Yeah, in the Pantone spectrum.
Did you have to get that approved by the university?
They don't own it.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Interesting.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
In due diligence,
yeah.
I found that out. But yeah, I was actually a philosophy major, and I'm really interested in ideas and how they intersect and how to argue, how to really think through why you believe what you believe. And I was like, wow, tech is huge, and tech is a huge part of culture, and it is a really understudied part of our everyday existence. So I really want to focus there. And then from there, I was like, hey, I really want to start a company. And I actually started in social media management. So I was working on The Real Housewives. I was doing community management for The Real Housewives, for Coca-Cola.
There's people in the studio where they're raising their hands in celebration of The Real Housewives. So what was that like?
That was like watching a lot of it very, very quickly in very short periods of time to come up with content calendars. So I kind of overdosed on all those franchises. But what I thought was really cool was that that's right when social media and Instagram was really launching. So I was like, oh, you can actually have all these choose your own adventure type experiences when you just follow all these characters on Instagram. You get to see what they say their life is like. And then you have this overarching story on TV. So I was like, oh, that's really, really cool. How would that apply to other people? And how would that apply to other, working with other brands?
So you were working, for the network or working for the developers?
I was working at an agency at the time. Oh. Yep. And then I went to Guild Group, and they really kind of gave me a lot of free reign to just do cool stuff in social and make sure that you're tracking back to revenue in some way. One time, actually, the fraud department called me up, and they were like, hey, someone is on Pinterest, and they're getting, $300,000 worth of referral credits. Can you check this out? And I was like, oh, that person's just super popular, and people love their pins. That was like a proto-influencer before that was even a term. And I was like, okay, cool. People are driving real revenue here.
So you're working at an agency, and then you're like, God darn it, I want to start my own company. How do you go from, it takes a lot of guts to start your own company, and did you have partners? And then I'm going to get to my favorite questions, like the name. It's such an incredible name because everybody says, obviously, including myself, over and over. And even when I'm introducing you, I'm wondering if I should say the CEO of Obviously. So tell us that journey that you've gone from you're working on the Real Housewives and other shows to you got your own agency.
I just had a very clear vision that influencer marketing is going to be a really, really big thing. And I saw how brands were approaching social and are so focused on their own social channels. I'm like, I care so much about what just normal, ordinary people are saying about these brands. If we could work with 100 of these just normal people who have audiences of 5,000, 10,000 followers, if we could work with 1,000 of those people, think of all the stories they could tell and how impactful that would be. So I should build the technology where we can actually do that and work with all those people in a really organized way. So then I brought on my co-founder and CTO, Max Domain, and he was in San Francisco, I was in New York. We would just talk all the time, and he just built a prototype, and we got going.
When you say, we built the technology, what did you actually build?
Yeah, so it's end-to-end influencer marketing, campaign management. So first, who do you want to work with? Okay, let's find every BMX bike rider who lives in California. Okay, here are all those people. What types of audience do they reach? Are they super inappropriate for a brand to work with? Let's just identify all of them,
Yep.
and then let's reach out to them. Let's negotiate rates with them. Let's get the license to their content from them. Then let's filter that group of people down and show the people we really like to our client. All of that is done within our dashboard, within our technology. And then content management. Hey, let's edit all the content that they're creating. And we started with it was primarily images, but now we're in a video world. So the editing technology that we built is even more powerful. And then that gets published and put into the world. What works really well, what doesn't work well, what should we do again, what should we never do again. And so we built this so we're super efficient and we can launch campaigns and launch content really, really within 24 hours. Kind of the speed you need to be at if you're trying to launch a TikTok and have it be someone in a boat, because that's the cool new trend at that time.
Why is it so popular at this point?
I mean, I think the culture is being captured on these social platforms right now. Something happens, you watch the session, there's going to be 100 amazing TikToks you're going to see literally in hours after it, and you're going to want to go and check out all those TikToks and be part of that larger conversation.
Which one?
Do you watch this, the latest
Succession?
episode?
Yeah, for sure. Would you say that TikTok on Succession or the podcast on Succession?
Oh, no, I'm saying that there were all of these memes that went viral on TikTok about the whole Burberry bag.
Yeah.
And Tom's
The
awesome
Tom's
slight on it.
on the bag.
And so then all these people are just making all of these memes, all of this awesome content that's so relevant within hours of the TV show coming on. So that is why it's so culturally relevant, is because you're like, oh, I got to go on TikTok to see what everyone else thinks.
So the bag was not.
It wasn't a great moment.
Wasn't a great
Burberry.
moment for Burberry. So what's Burberry doing in that moment?
Well,
Would Burberry try to counter the negativity maybe from Succession?
Well, I think that's just such a strong case for needing to be on these platforms in a really active way already. So you're not just crickets from Burberry on TikTok or on Instagram Reels. It should be, hey, yeah, we work with hundreds of creators. They talk about us all the time. They come to our defense organically during this entire thing. It's not that you're playing catch up and it's a conversation at 3 a.m. with your account executive.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So you've joined the WPP family recently. What does it mean to you? Why did you decide to do that? And what can you bring to us, frankly, and the rest of the companies? And how do you partner well with different agencies and different media companies that we have? So what's the plan?
So what I think is really awesome is that I think we can really help change the overall creative conversation because we now have more tools in the toolkit. Right. So we do a lot of content creation. I think a lot of times people think influencer marketing, it's my favorite influencer talking about a given product to their audience. Yeah. We actually let's have 100 influencers or 100 content creators create TikToks in a 24-hour span because we want to jump on this trend today. And so if you're an amazing creative strategist or you're in a whole brainstorming session, you now have the ability to talk about so many more things because you can create content really quickly and you can create content to very specific niche audiences, I think at a scale and a complexity that you probably wouldn't have necessarily have even thought of previously.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to be able to bring that to the conversation, to be able to be like, hey, you're doing something at the Statue of Liberty. We can find you every single person or almost every single person who's posted a video at the Statue of Liberty, for the past few years. Would that help you in some way? There's just so many cool, interesting things that I think, given some really creative, amazing people, they'd be like, whoa, okay, well, because of that, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this.
Well, why WPP?
the biggest and the best,
Right. Look at this. Great answer. Great
Yeah.
answer. So, well, it's interesting. I joined 2 years ago because of the scale and the size, and I wanted to have as much impact on as many people and work with the biggest brands and have as much impact on consumers and society in general. But I'm always curious as to, so I'm sure you had many people that were interested, and in the end, it's not always about the deal. It is about the relationship and the people, and you must have met enough people here that you really connected with, and we're happy to have you.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, the VML Y&R team is fantastic. And what we've built is something that works particularly well for very large enterprise brands, and enterprise brands work with WPP.
So what WPP brands are you working with currently? What are you excited about? What is your team jumping on right now?
So people like current clients, even pre-acquisition, Google is a great example. Hyatt is a great example.
Those are two amazing ones.
Two really great ones that we're really excited about.
So you never answered the question, why? Obviously, I am fascinated.
Well, first of all, it's like Inception, because then everyone else in the meeting starts saying obviously, and then they catch themselves, and they're like, I just said it 5 times. Oh, my God. And so it's a great moment, just internal mental branding. So I was actually at Guild Group, and my boss at the time had a big meeting and was writing on the whiteboard everything we were doing to launch in new markets. And it was like, so-and-so owning the sales funnel, so-and-so event launch party, so-and-so on and on and on and on. And then he gets to me, and he's like, and Mae, obviously social, whatever it is that she does. It's kind of like a joke, but also kind of on the nose. It was kind of great. And I was like, obviously social. That's fantastic. So I started a blog called Obviously Social, talking about social media and what I thought it should be. And that got some traction, which was fantastic. And then I used that as the kind of springboard to start the company.
What would you tell yourself to do better as a young person? And what advice do you have for our young, employees?
I think that it's really possible. And I think that's something that people don't think. They're like, oh, that seems like it's impossible or it's really hard. And it's like, yeah, it's hard, but you can figure it out, and I think that actually creativity is a big part of it. You guys have to think of really creative solutions to each and every challenge, and you learn as you go, and you figure out what you're really, really good at, and you figure out what you're terrible at, and then you assign those things away to other people unless you need to keep doing them, and then you just do that on repeat. And I think it's really, really rewarding. It's really hard, but it is so rewarding, and I think people don't sometimes talk about that part of it too.
What are you really good at, and then what are you really wishing you can be better at?
So I am really good at vision and understanding on a macro level what we need to be doing at the company. And at first, I didn't realize how important that was, but it's everything. I was like, this is what influencer marketing is now. This is where it's going. This is what people are willing to pay for now. And here's where I need it to get to. And then all this other stuff is just super shiny objects, and we need to ignore it and just focus on what we're doing. And I think that has really made all the difference in influencer marketing, which is literally changing every single day. By the time we get off this podcast, something different will have happened. So I think that is the number one biggest thing. I think I have an amazing chief operating officer, and I think that operationally building a process, not something I'm great at. Also, not something I need to be great at. He's awesome at it, and I get a lot of satisfaction from watching him build processes.
So you're not great at building these things, so you hire people who do.
Well, I'm great at building.
No, I mean building the processes.
Yeah, no, like the process, like, oh, you get this lead form, and you have this person do this and this. Yeah.
Who's your creative hero? I mean, creativity is so much. I mean, obviously the podcast is called Screaming Creativity, and there's so much creativity in what you do. And if you weren't seen as a creative company, I know we wouldn't have been interested in partnering with you. So who's your creative hero? I mean, it's okay to say me. I'm right here. I mean, I know it's awkward, but I can't find
you're definitely my creative hero. Yes,
thank you very much. Okay, well, can anyone be creative in your mind? Do you think it's something you're born with, or can it be learned? Can it be taught? I believe it's the most valuable asset in the world, creativity, and I think it should be taught in schools. But I don't know what your view on that is.
Yeah, I think that everyone can be creative. I think everyone is creative, and some people just really flex that muscle a lot more than other people. And I think people don't totally understand it. I think sometimes they think it's like, hey, am I really good at art class when they're growing up? It's actually, can you figure out and make different relationships between different disparate ideas and in like new and in different ways? And I think that if someone kind of explained that to more people, I think that's where the real creativity comes from. You can be really creative with a startup. You can be really creative as an engineer building like a new type of tooling, building this microphone. I mean, that's super creative, actually.
What's something people don't know about you or something you're creatively doing or interested in doing that's kind of fun?
Yeah, so I actually got started with my first website. My first company was actually...
Time out here. I'm sorry. Your first company? Like, how many companies do you have now?
Yeah, so it was actually first edition and rare books with my dad. And so we'd like go to yard sales, go to libraries, pick up books, go to book signings, get them signed. And then he was really building out this awesome collection. And then I put it all online one summer. And I was like, oh, this is super cool. Like, I love the process of trying to figure out how to get this thing done. So I love books. I love reading. And I love that entire process. But I think that's something that is pretty random. That
it's
I think
very
is cool.
random. It's random and rare that someone so still young in your career, been so accomplished in starting not just one company, but two companies, and the second one being a major part of WPP now. So welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. It's
and
been
I
great.
can't wait to partner with you on the next project.
Likewise. Awesome.
Awesome.
Screaming Creativity is produced by WPP in Hogarth, edited by Rob C. Ward at BCW, and supported by our partners at Spotify.